I'd like to call the Destin Fire Control District Special Meeting of Board of Fire Commissioners to order. We are at 848 Airport Road here in Destin. The date is July 28, 2021. The time is 9 a.m. I'd like to open the floor up for public comments at this time. Seeing none, the floor is closed to public comments. We're here to discuss and take any action and all actions relating to the construction and remodel of the new fire station. And Chief, you would like to address any of those issues?
Yes, sir. We, after our last meeting, we asked for TC to put together some recommendations for the boards of how we can progress forward as we received only one bid and the board rejected that. He's, I believe, prepared today to provide some guidance on recommendations on how we can move forward. And he and I kind of discussed, we've met, and I support his recommendations, and then whatever guidance and we'll provide from that, we'll move forward from there. So that's all right. I'll turn it over to DC.
Okay. As you know, at our last meeting, we turned down the, well, let's start off. We sent out the request for proposal 21-006. As you know, there were a couple of meetings that Ms. Catherine Chief had with prospective vendors. At the end of the day, there was two bids received, one from Warren Doors and Access Controls, which they only bid on a certain amount of doors, but their RFP was not complete and it was not proper, so it did not count as a bid. Therefore, the commissioners and the board did not vote on it. The second bid that was received was Bear General Contractors LLC, which proposed or gave a proposal for a majority of the services that were required in the request proposal, but because of the price and looking at the proposal, the board determined that it was not in the best interest of the district to accept that. So that leaves us, the board district, with a few different options moving forward regarding this request for proposal. And I want to just at least let you guys know where I'm coming from. First, the rules of procedure adopted in 2004 for the city of Destin. Rule 1.805 states that receipt of one bid or no bid shall be governed by the procedures outlined in section 1.704 of the rules. 1.7044 states the receipt of one bid or no bid. In the event of one bid or no bids or proposals are received in response to a bid solicitation or a request for proposal, the district may negotiate the best terms and conditions available for the acquisition of the required commodities. I went in and looked at the Florida statutes as well to determine what happens when there's only one bid or less. And specifically, section 287.0575 states, if less than two responsive bid proposals or replies for commodity or contractual services purchases are received, the department or other agency may negotiate on the best terms and conditions. The department or other agency shall document the reason that such action is in the best interest of the state in lieu of resoliciting competitive sealed bids, proposals, or replies. Each agency shall report all such actions to the department on a quarterly basis in a manner and form prescribed by the department. So what this means is the district has multiple options moving forward. One, you can go out and send out the request proposal again and hopefully get more vendors. Two, pursuant to 287.057 statute as well, 1A and C, we can send out invitations to bid and invitations to negotiate to see if we can get anybody that will go ahead and we can find anybody that will bid on those. The third is what we were just talking about, but the rules and the statutes state that the district may negotiate with outside vendors if it is in the best interest of the district. To do that, we have to put together something in writing why it is in the best interest of the district to move forward with that option 3. So it would be my recommendation at this time that the commissioners allow a committee, myself, the chief, and Commissioner Buckingham to get together and provide you all with a recommendation on what the best option would be for the district moving forward as it relates to this request proposal. Either resolicit the bids, send out request, invitation bids or invitations to negotiate, or to work with, directly with different vendors. So again, that would be my option, and then we would present that recommendation to the board at the next meeting, which I think will be next Wednesday. The board can vote on which option they want to go with.
Okay. And just for clarification, you were quoting a procedure, and you said the city of Destin. You mentioned the Destin Fire Control District.
Yes, I'm sorry, the Destin Fire Control District Rules and Procedures adopted at the February 9, 2004.
Okay, you said the city, so I just wanted to make sure for the record that it was, you were quoting ours. Okay, cool. So, I guess I'm in agreement with that. I mean, I think that's what we need to do. So I guess we need to take a vote or just a consensus on that.
Mike, you good with that? You on board? Yeah, no problem.
Just a consensus.
Okay.
I don't think there a vote needs to be
Okay.
now at the next meeting.
Tommy?
Now, the next meeting, we'll ask for a vote
Yeah.
on our recommendation.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you so much for the research. Is that all? Is that?
Yeah, that's it. The other small parts that we're working on now are still in progress. I think we're getting a lot closer. As we've said, each meeting, it's just the time that we're living in, with things are much slower than what we would normally be accustomed to outside of this pandemic. And when it started, it slowed everything down, from computer chips to material cost, production, people working. It's that perfect storm that we have right now that's making it so difficult, much less trying to get a contract to build a building, trying to get a lift built, or trying to get other things that we're trying to get accomplished, from even temporary building and those kind of things. It's just, things are slow. And because of everything that our country's going through, we're feeling some of those effects with some of the smaller stuff we're getting done. They're ordered, they're in the process, it's just taking longer than what we would typically turn around and go, outside of a pandemic, we say, "Well, we have this done in 5 to 6 weeks." And now we're looking at stuff that's gonna take us, 8 to 10, instead of 5 to 6 or 4 to 6. So, but the list coming along, the building's coming along, both of those things are getting built. As soon as they get here, we're gonna get them installed. So the process is working and things are going. But for the board, we're down there, we're operating, we're responding to calls, whether it's on the water or on, we're down there operating. It's just not ideal conditions for our folks down there. But it is what we anticipated we would do, regardless. It's not like we weren't anticipating we're gonna move into the college. We knew the quarters were gonna be tight, they are, but relief's coming. But we are operating there, we're providing service to the citizens on the end of the district, we're providing service to our visitors and citizens on the water, so the service is being provided, just not ideal conditions just yet, but we're working to fix that.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
You said we're also servicing the water, which
We are,
that's what we're there for.
yes, sir.
Currently, our guys are up front in the front building. So if they have to run out there, out back, do they run? Or do we have a ATV or anything yet?
Mhm. So we got an ATV purchased, it was there to go day one.
Okay,
Got 3 seats and even got the ability to carry a
okay, good.
patient.
Great, thank you.
Now, is the boat coming over and staging at
During the
times?
day.
And then going back on the lift at night?
Right, so that way we get it up and out of the water at night.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, we kind of look at it during the day, so a lot of traffic, a lot of people on the water, not so much at night. So it'll be down there, the crew comes on in the morning, one of the first things to do is go around, go there, get the boat, bring it back over to the station. And then about dusk, they take it back over and park it, put it on the lift. So that way it's not sitting there collecting, marbles, all kinds of other stuff, just sitting in the water all the time. So we take it out during the day, put it up.
Good idea. Any issues with anything else over there?
I can tell you what we've discussed is interesting, with the tides rolling in and out. Yeah, it's interesting pulling in and out of the slip, the way the slip's set up right now. It can be challenging,
Right.
because when the water's pulling hard, it's
It's tough.
It's pulling. So, I know when we, move forward at the point that we go to change out the dock, setting it up when in line with the tide is no doubt what we need to do, because we're experiencing it right now. I think you get it, every one of our boat operators is set to pull it against the tide. They do it, but it's a little bit of a challenge without banging the boat around with it.
How's Frank doing on that?
Well, right now, it's kind of out of Frank's hands. It's ordered, it's down there, with the guy in South Florida. He's building it. As soon as he can get it up here, Frank's going to get it installed, but we're still waiting on that vendor to complete the building.
How about for the drawings, or is he still working on the drawings?
We just got that worked out, and that's going to start probably proceeding today, as far as with the individual that's going to shepherd us through that whole process. So we had a little bit of discussion, get some things worked out. We got those things worked out now, and he's going to start moving forward on it.
And then the temporary building, we're still working forward, I mean, the shelter.
Yes, for the apparatus, yes, I had conversation with the installation contractor yesterday. He's ready to go. And the Big Top, the salesman, stopped by I think it was last week. He stopped by and it's in production. So we're looking, hopefully within the next week, maybe next week or the week after, we should have the material sitting here, the building sitting here, and then the contractor should be.
I noticed the city's done with the concrete work in front of the other driveway, so that's made it a whole lot easier getting in and out of there.
Sure, they still have the concrete work there on the other side though.
They're not gonna do the other thing.
Oh, they're not?
No, sir.
Fantastic,
Yeah, that's just fine, they're not touching it.
Oh, good.
fantastic. That's great, because that does make it a lot easier for the guys, because they will drive through now. Instead of trying to back through, because they have to block Calhoun in order to go back into the station. And as we would like for them to be able to do the turnaround on the property without interfering with the traffic on Calhoun. And they're able to do that right now.
Good, good, good. All right. Good deal.
So all these smaller things are kind of moving forward, and then we'll work on the larger project, and have something back to y'all's next meeting.
Okay. All right, then, any other discussion on it? Discussion or anything? Then we'll move on to the budget workshop for 2021-2022 fiscal year.
As we discussed at the last regular board meeting, I kind of gave some overall 10,000 view, highlights of where we were, percentage increase, where some of the monies were going on some of the larger items. But as I mentioned to the board, the line by line without Catherine being here would have been more of a challenge. So now that she's here, the reason we're having a meeting today is so that way she can answer any questions that the board has, but yet be able to break it down so that it makes it, the board gets one good run through the board, the budget as we kind of set it up, and then whatever guidance the board has after that, when it goes, just bring it back to you. So if that's okay, I'd like to turn it over to Catherine, will let her run through the budget.
Let's go on quick.
Yes.
What was the percentage of the property value increase?
6.18,
1.8. Okay, I thought it was 6.8, but it was 1.8. Okay.
yes, 1.8.
All right, good.
All right, so we're just going to work our way through this. We'll cover the majority of the line items here. So as far as revenue, as Commissioner Moore just asked, we saw an ad valorem increase of 6.18%, which is the equivalent of $419,551 increase. With that, you'll see a couple negative amounts below it. We've got the discount of 3.5 and the uncollected taxes of 1.5. Those are both requirements of the TRIM process. We must show a 5% reduction in our ad valorem taxes. So the board realizes the uncollected tax is never realized. The the tax collector does a wonderful job collecting our tax revenue. So we always see that, and Chief Sasser and I have been discussing maybe some future use of those funds. Tax collector fee, is a 2% fixed fee. Annually, it comes in just below 2%, so we're going to keep that percentage about the same. As far as our investments, interest from investment and unrealized gain and loss from investments, I'm actually making a reduction in those categories at this point. While interest rates are rising, that affects our checking and our general savings accounts, but it has an adverse effect on our bond fund, which is where we have the majority of our money saved. So I don't want to overestimate that type of revenue, because it does have an effect if we don't receive it. So we have plan review fees staying the same, medical training revenue, just a minor adjustment to that. That's our CPR class that we teach for the public. That is not a profitable, it is a break-even program. So later down in the budget, you'll have expenses to offset that revenue. Alarm system malfunction fees, very minimal. We really work with the vendors to try to get their cooperation with their technicians when they're working on alarm systems at various buildings and condos to make sure that we don't have false alarms. Reinspection fees, there's actually a very large increase there. We're actually approximately at 14,000 collection at this point this year for reinspection fees. That department is doing a very good job, and it is proposed in this budget to add a second inspector. So with that second inspector, we're going to assume that that revenue is going to increase. We hope over time, as you know, they're really getting out to these businesses more often, we hope to see that come down. But we're not at that point in the community right now.
I think that's an issue.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I like it, but is there a big issue with going into business and they're not properly?
I mean, I could ask the fire marshal to put together a summary of what some of our findings have been, just in general, so that you can kind of understand so the board may understand what some of the things that we're seeing is causing us to have to go back. So some of that might be that you go in and they have an extinguisher that's out of date and haven't been researched just because they forgot about it. So we still got to come back once they get it done and evaluate it, so that causes us to come back another time. Or where if somebody has a sprinkler system, they haven't had their annual done. Okay, or it's not that they haven't done, it's out of date.
Right.
So those kind of things that we see, a lot of stuff we can get taken care of there. If they can fix it right there in front of us, they do, and there's no coming back. So if boxers are piled up in front of the door, we tell them to clear the door, and then we're good because there's no right up there. But what I can do and have it ready for the next commission regular board meeting is have the fire marshal put together just a basic summary of some of the examples of things that we see that's out there, so you can see. I don't think, obviously, it's nothing that's intentional. We don't believe on anyone's part. It's just things that they forget about that we look at and go, these are safety things for us, because that's our business. Where they're more involved in, if they're a restaurant serving food and getting things kicked out, and they're not worried about whether or not that extinguisher is hitting its date and been inspected or not.
Well, maybe we need to look at an educational program or something, put out or something.
Yep, okay.
I think another inspector's smart. I mean, we've grown to the point where it's hard to cover everything.
Well, absolutely, and I think with the additional inspector, and as Ms. Catherine was alluding to, that the more we're able to get out there and see their businesses, the more they're able to kind of be accustomed to, they know we're coming, we're going to hit, and they get used to that. We gotta get that done, we gotta get this done, we can't pile this up. When it's been a period of time in between, then the next thing you know, somebody just kind of forgets about it.
It's no different than the health inspector. You know, as a restaurant, we're used to them coming in and checking on us.
Anytime. How about, do we plan ahead, let them know we're coming next week?
Yeah, we call,
We call them.
Yes.
They had a week
We
ahead of
schedule.
time
we schedule.
to be ready, and if they're not ready, shame on them then.
Yeah, right. But we also can do, we're not required to, we do that as a courtesy.
Nice.
We could drop in at any point to check because it's a safety issue.
Right.
But we don't, we plan ahead,
Nice.
and give them the phone call for the courtesy that we're coming.
I hate to have to charge anybody to re-inspect it rather than be ready and safe and, and compliant.
Right. And I think it's the reason
Well,
we
if you let them
just,
know you're coming a week ahead of time, right? And they don't get it done, that's their, you know, their issue.
Right.
And I think if the board remembers, when we first wrote that ordinance, okay, we're way off the budget, but it's related. But when we first wrote the ordinance, it was like, first time, second time, we hit you.
Yeah.
So we've actually got that off. So it's really not like they're getting more of an opportunity than they ever have. We show up the first time and say, hey, you need to get this done. We're coming back in a week. You should be able to get it done in a week. We don't hit them that next time. We hit them the time after. So they're getting at least 2 opportunities for us to look at it. So
I remember us writing that in.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember it.
Yeah.
But
I got a question for you though.
I didn't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Does a health inspector come and inspect somebody at Tommy Right? They come in, you know, once or twice a year and they do restaurants only. But we're doing condos,
all of it.
we're doing commercial buildings, we're doing everything that they're not doing. So, you know, there's a lot of them out there that I agree with another inspector. I think we
Oh,
need it.
absolutely.
That
I've always said that. Every business ought to be touched.
Yeah.
So, and I know it's impossible, just one person can hit all
Well,
of
if he can catch something that if we have to go in there. our
it. And then
guys-
re-inspect too. So that takes time to re-inspect. So I'd much rather them be ready when they get there. I don't have to go back.
As Catherine says, this'll, we anticipate it's gonna go up once we get the new inspector on, but over a period of time, we will see this come down. Because just mere fact of volume, us being out there a lot more, I think you'll see it come down.
Sorry for the
Thank you.
distraction, but
Okay, so finishing up with revenues, you'll see grant funds of $960,000, and that's made up of 3 different grants that we hope to receive. We have the preliminary word that Chief Sass already said that we've received the boat grant. That grant will be in total of approximately $747,000. We receive annually a training grant from our workers' comp program. So at this point, I am building that in. It's $5,000. And then we're hoping to continue to apply for a FEMA grant for self-contained breathing apparatuses. We are at the point of needing to replace those. We've been hoping to get a grant for them. If we don't get the grant, we still will probably need to proceed with that purchase. But that's what makes up the $960,000. So you will see that this shows actually a reduction in revenue because we did have the large loan debt proceeds last year. So moving into the annual expenditures, personnel services, as a whole, there's not too many very large adjustments. We have added the inspector in. We've looked at the current staff we have. We have had change in staff, which changes, pay. We've included in here all of the step raises, which are incurred throughout the year. They're not at one time, so we do have to do an analysis of when does each and every individual get their raise. That's built in here. About 7 items down, you'll get into insurance benefits. So there's an increase of $32,000 there. As we do every year, we give a high inflation rate for this is what we project into the budget because our renewal is not until March 1st. So costs are known for the first 7 months of our fiscal year, but come March 1st, we've built in a 10% increase for our general medical insurance and then a 5% increase for the other insurances, for life insurance, for dental and vision. We also estimate, we don't know the new hires that we're going to get, whether they're going to be enrolled single or whether they're going to be enrolled in family. So we actually do a mix of estimating that. So that can drive a higher cost. We are looking for new employees at this time. So that's driving a bit of the cost as well. Workers' comp insurance, we have not seen the renewal for that. So that's showing a cost of $268,000. We're working with our broker at this time. We're working on getting our mod rate down, making some corrections to the claims that we already have on file. We are still at a high rate. We still have, for our look back period of 3 years, we still have some major claims on the book books due to our requirements with the Florida statutes. We will be dropping one of those major claims off in the upcoming year, but this year we don't have that reduction. Our renewal for that is October 1st. We tried to stagger that and bring that back like we did some of the other insurance, but we were not able to do so. It has to renew on October 1st. So as we go through our future budget workshops, we'll see if an adjustment needs to be made to that category. Moving down to retirement contribution 175. In the past, the board has been very aggressive with paying the unfunded liability in the retirement plan. Since we took on Station 19, we have additional capital expenditures. We cannot afford to do that at this time. So this budget is built off the minimum required benefit that is determined by the actuary of the retirement trust fund. So you do see a reduction in that payment. Come the end of the fiscal year, if there's funds available, that'll certainly be presented to the board to say, hey, we have this available. Would you like to pay down the retirement? Would you like to pay down our debt service? Would you like to keep it in an unassigned fund? So there'll be various options presented depending on where the needs of the district fall. And then going down, we've already talked about wages, the inspector. So you'll see that there's an addition of 60,000 there. And there's, if there's any specific questions on personnel services and their benefits.
I guess we can talk about it at this point. Since we're getting a new boat, we may just want to look into futures, and that's a year out. Maybe a single boat operator, because that's going to be a bigger vessel. And then I think just something we need to discuss later, but keep in mind and start thinking about it going forward, because not everybody's going to jump on that one. And
Agree 100%. So we know that we're in need, and that's what we requested from the Coast Guard. Wasn't another 28-foot boat. We requested a much larger boat in the event, which has happened here very recently. Matter of fact, twice within like 2 days. We've had to go out in the Gulf because somebody's coming in with a medical emergency on a charter boat. So depending on what days those are, or depending on whether that 28-footer is better to take, or it's better to take our larger boat out there because of the conditions. And it's not to say that we've got some very skilled people.
Right.
Not a ton of them, but we've got a couple that I would feel very confident in. If they said, I'm taking that 28-foot and I'm going, and I look out there and go, there's no way I would. I have confidence in them to be able to get that done. Those are a very select few on a small boat. If it were a larger boat and they were accustomed to operating that larger boat, I'd feel more comfortable when we're taking it out there in certain conditions. So it's understood, absolutely recognized it's gonna be a larger boat, it's gonna be a different, similar but yet different skill set. So it just won't be automatic that somebody can operate this boat. We're going to have to set up a training program to ensure that everybody is and all that. And I've got some thoughts that long before we get there, that I'll run by the board on how we can approach this most economically and be able to try to get it accomplished, whether it's we point one, but I've got some other ideas as well. So it's not only that one, there are other ideas.
I mean, because right now we got Chief Taylor, and they're doing, and Hutch, they're looking to retire in the next, year and a half. I mean, and those are the guys we lean on right now for that, so.
I agree.
Yeah.
It might behoove us to subcontract it out.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was just thinking the same
I'll
thing.
talk, I mean, y'all get way ahead of me. I ain't ready yet.
Yeah, I'm
So,
thinking how.
But I will say this, you're on the path that I was going.
Yeah.
Okay, but I would prefer if you give me some opportunity to kind of to get some things a little bit more lined up before I put it out there. But I would say exactly what Commissioner Green just said is where
I mean, 'cause we don't need a firefighter to operate the boat.
Absolutely not.
We just need a seasoned captain that knows and can be responsible for that vessel.
No different than.
I got some ideas, and I'll bring them before the board.
Okay, good idea.
But
It just came to mind when I saw a fireboat operator and we talking about the boat, I was like.
I think it's very interesting that where I was in my mind and kind of starting to get some information on where we were going to go, that the board went the same direction. So
Immediately.
that makes me feel good that I was already kind of, it does. It makes me feel
Well,
good. Thank you.
the opportunity's there, not just to captain of the boat, but it could be oversee watching both boats, the maintenance and operations of it, so.
Yeah.
It's something to look at, that's all.
Absolutely.
That's why I brought it up, just talk about it another time, but
As far
Get
as,
some thoughts
I don't
about it.
see it in this budget, so you won't see it in this budget,
No.
but we will have discussions before. We'll have some discussions and direction and how we can move forward, for sure.
just want to plant the seed.
For sure. And because what I do see, right along where you were going, is that we need to have somebody that can train our folks. Because even if we pick one person, that person is always available. So there's got to be others that can operate it. So, but one person that has a skill set can train others to ensure that they're competent in operating the boat. So that more can be available to do it, which is what our desire is. And I think actually by being able to do something that we're generally talking about here, being able to do something like that, then is better for everybody being able to operate a boat because they get better trained, you get more hours on the boat, there's just all kinds of benefits to it, so.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, great ideas, thank you very much.
Sorry for the interruption.
No,
That's
makes
okay.
me feel back good, actually.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Is there any other questions in the personnel section?
I'm good.
Okay, then we'll move along to review the other operating expenditures. On the next page, beginning with personnel services, we're in our last year of the contract for our auditing service with CRI, so that increases there. Legal, we're actually coming in a lot lower on legal this year, but we're keeping it the same because we're upcoming full union negotiation. So we're keeping that at the level. We're able to reduce other professional services. This is where we get our other post-employment benefit analysis done and any other type of contractor we need. As we go through building of the new station, those items will all be capitalized. They won't go in this section anymore because we're actually in the process of doing that at this point. Contract services, just a minimal adjustment to network administration, and that's adding station 19 to for our computers and our network and our servers and so forth. Under utilities, you will see highlighted cable. That means that I made a change to that category from the last presentation that you had. There was actually a formula calculation error. It was not rounding up. It needed to round up. So it's an additional $1,000 from what you previously saw. So no change. We have added them. When we move to the bigger building, we'll see larger expense there. But right now we should be good maintaining. So the rest of the categories have been adjusted for station 19, and trash service has now been added. So when we added service for station 19, waste management said, oh, you should be being charged for this. And we went back and forth with them. The Destin Fire Control District has never paid for trash service. At one time, many years ago, I had notes that it was a courtesy write-off. We had some of that with other utility vendors as well for certain things. Well, now there is no courtesy write-off, and the city of Destin controls the trash service in Destin. So we did go to the city of Destin, and city of Destin says, no, we don't have any special exemption for you. However, we can consider that with future negotiations with waste management. So as for now, we do have to build an increase, and we do have to add this line item. Hopefully in the future, maybe we can work something out. Maybe the city will look at this and consider us, a little different. Maybe on the lines that they consider themselves for this service. Insurance, we've received the preliminary renewal for our general and liability insurance. There is actually a decrease coming. It's a small decrease, and it'll be spread across all of the categories: beach safety, junior lifeguard. We do not know what the final rates are yet, so I'm hoping for actually a little more savings than what we see on the books. Going into repair and maintenance, you'll see a swing in lots of categories. So boat, we're actually taking down. While we're having some issues with our current boat, it is under warranty, and we expect all of those issues to be under warranty if we continue to have, problems here and there with it. Building is increased. That is due to a third station. So you can see that we've actually increased that by a third. Computers. This is computer hardware, computer software. It's not the support, it's not the server maintenance. This is the actual physical items. What we have here, this cost is not associated with Station 19. We need to upgrade our Microsoft package. Currently, we have an Exchange server that takes care of our email system. That type of product is going away on the market. Everything's going up to the cloud. It's going up to Microsoft 365. Those products, even technicians, the current company we use, they only have one technician that handles Exchange servers that we have on site. So we're looking to upgrade, and we need to upgrade our Microsoft package anyway. So we're forced into upgrading into a cloud system. And now it's going to cost us an additional $9,000 a year for the Microsoft subscription. We've gone through comparing prices for government prices and nonprofit prices, and we're going to get the most economical package that we can. But that is a forced upgrade. Let's see, equipment, that's actually repair and maintenance of our current equipment that we have. Looking back at the past 5 years averages, we feel we can kind of tighten up on that category a little bit. And the same thing with vehicles. Our apparatus is a newer fleet, so we feel that there's a bit of savings we can have for that. So, right. Supplies category. A couple items, station supplies, we're able to reduce that. We made a mid-year adjustment to get the new station ready, cookware and sleepwear and things that we needed, so we can come back to our normal range for that. And then equipment. This is equipment under $1,000. So when we need lawnmower purchases or leaf blowers or a new microwave or tools for the trucks, anything that's under $1,000 and not capitalized, this is where it goes. This is a larger reduction because we had the TRT expenditures last year that we're not going to have again. So adjustments made to that category. Moving to the next page, under other, this is where we have our training, looking to keep that the same. The amount that we transfer to the asset fund, in the past, just like we do for the retirement fund, we were putting extra in the asset fund because, as you know, the asset fund is allowed to kind of be in the negative. We're allowed to go 10% under funding of that. Well, in the past, we've put extra in there because we've needed it for known large capital expenditures. This year, with a tighter budget, with more capital expenses, we're kind of bringing it down to not having that extra funding go into it. So that's why it shows a larger reduction in the transfer. Debt service, that is our new loan with Synovus Bank. So capturing a full year of payments is going to be $134,000. So before we get into capital expenditures, are there any questions, concerns about the other operating expenses that we just went through?
The capital outlay, you haven't covered that.
No, I'm getting ready to do that right now. I just want to make sure that there's no other questions before I get into that. Okay. So the capital outlay is presented in major categories. I'm going to walk through each of those. So we do have 1.1 million set aside for the apparatus bay. And I know in your heads we only had 100,000, but actually had 100,000 additional set aside for furnishings and so forth. So that's why it's 1.1 million. So that is unchanged. Land, 65,000. This is highlighted in yellow because it was omitted from the previous budgets. This is for the potential purchase of that slip of land next to Station 10 that we're still hoping will
Where we
occur.
at with that, PC?
Still wrapped up in the works. I've been getting updates from Ms. Smith, and they had some hiccups with service process, and so they're trying to work those out. But, welcome to the legal system, court system right now.
Okay.
All right, so going into building improvements, this category is 225,000. This includes the remodel of Station 9, remodel of Station 10, the kitchens, the front reception office. Those total approximately 95,000, what we had set aside for those. Part of it's Chief Sasser and I spoke. It was determined to still keep this on the books. However, we knew that there's a priority of what the board's doing. So the apparatus bay first, the remodel of the Bay House second, which we have 100,000 in this category for. We do know that the RFPs came in higher. The one that was rejected came in higher. So, as I guess Chief Sasser and the committee are working, that's one of the things that will come with that as well.
I will stay, unfortunately, sorry, Captain.
That's fine.
But just to elaborate a little bit. So, Commissioner Buckingham isn't in here right this moment, but he and I have spoken, in reference to his thoughts on cost of the new construction. Actually, we've discussed all of these just in general because of his wealth of knowledge that he has in that industry. We kind of talked about what it would cost to build a new garage realistically as compared to what we received in the bid. Just that project in the bid alone was 1.7 to 1.8 million. Okay, so that's where that bid was. What we anticipate in my discussion with Commissioner Buckingham is that it's going to be under $1 million. Okay, so we're saying 1.1, but our belief is that we're going to be under $1 million just to build the garage. So it's what we're lining up here isn't going to be far off what we anticipate it's going to be. And just in general, talking to some contractors in the area, you get generalized prices. We should be able to hit that mark. So, but I wanted the board to be aware. We left a lot of this in here, although in general we kind of said, hey, these are our priorities. We know that the money that we have and that we set aside, we can still get it all done. Even though we got that scare of one bid that came in extremely high, we do feel that the more realistic that we're going to be, and after we do our research and provide some guidance to the board, we feel we're going to be within these numbers. However, even though this is a preliminary budget, even if you approve it, we'll make a mid-year budget adjustment in the event that it ends up being something that we don't anticipate. We can always adjust it and drop a project here and there if need be. So, but right now, we're preparing as if we can do all the projects just like we believe we can. Sorry, Ms. Captain.
You're fine. The final item in building improvement is the generator for Station 9. We've been creeping along, hoping this one continues to be in service. So, but that's in there for $30,000. The next item is firefighter equipment for $278,000. This consists of two items. The first is the self-contained breathing apparatus, which is, hoping to get a grant for. If we don't get a grant for it, we're looking at a cost. I have estimated $208,000. I do feel that might need to be adjusted a little higher. We are working off of an estimate that's 2 years old. But that project won't probably come up until, well, when it occurs, we'll let you know where the price
Now,
stands.
do we replace everybody's
We replace a certain number. So it's all of them. They're not, SCBA's aren't assigned individuals. So SCBA's are assigned trucks.
Oh, you're talking about the truck, okay. I thought you were talking about the breathing apparatus.
We are.
We are.
It's a big, I was still aware, that's correct, but everybody's not assigned to breathing apparatus. We'd have to have 36 of them.
Oh, okay, so it's just the ones on the truck.
Right.
Okay.
You're gonna get on the truck to go, so we have 18. And we're gonna replace all 18 of them. And it was, to do the amounts, every apparatus has 4. So that's 16, 4 apparatus. Now, we're looking, obviously, when the new truck comes in, we're gonna buy a new apparatus to go on that truck, so that's gonna go from 16 to 20, plus the battalion has one and I have one. So then the event, so that way, if you're a certified firefighter and you drive on a truck, you should be able to put an
Grab one.
SCBA on, good work.
Okay.
And the second item within the firefighter equipment is $70,000 for putting equipment on that new truck. Part of that $70,000 will be capitalized, part of it will not be capitalized. We're not gonna make an estimate on what's gonna be under $1,000. We'll do it when it occurs, and we'll make a budget adjustment when that money needs to be shifted to a different category. But that is similar to when we got the new truck and needed to put the equipment on the new truck. It's a similar cost. So that's $70,000.
I want to get back to that for the breathing apparatus. So the new truck that we just did, we're not replacing it, right? Wouldn't replace it right now, right? The one we got truck last year, or the year before last? Or do we change them all out every 2 years?
I think we just, so breathing apparatus, we moved from truck to truck. When we went to buy new equipment, it wasn't, breathing apparatus wasn't part of that.
So we
So-
didn't put
so
them
like-
on.
So like
didn't
when we
put them-
replaced engine 9, I think it's what you're
Yeah.
talking about, or 10.
Yeah.
When we said, okay, we're gonna replace equipment as what Ms. Catherine's covering right now is $60,000 or $70,000. That was $67,000 equipment minus the SCBA.
Oh, okay.
SCBA's come off of one truck that replaced and went back onto this truck.
Okay.
Because if we add a truck to the fleet, which is what we're doing here, we buy all new equipment, including the SCBA's. So, because we keep them all on that same schedule, if we can, but this one obviously is gonna fall outside of that schedule.
I was just thinking that
Yes, sir.
not at all swap out every time if we do it in different
Right,
trucks.
which is what we were,
It's not a big hit every,
right, and that's what we were doing with, SCBA bottles. Because, there are certain things that have definitive life. An SCBA bottle has a definitive
Right.
shelf life. I mean, it is done, that they by standard call it dead. And so, the SCBA doesn't go dead, it has a forever life. As long as we bought it and it met, NFPA requirements at the time that it was purchased, you can continue to operate as long as you take care of it for 50 years if you want, continue to operate it. At some point, they'll probably call it obsolete, but it ain't gonna go 50 years. So it can continue to go. So it doesn't have a drop dead, absolutely goes away date, as long as you bought it and it met the standards at the time. But most folks do replace it, and they start looking at it at 15 to 20 years, they start replacing apparatus, some depending, or earlier than that. And that's a long time for an SCBA, to be honest with you. Technology, obviously, just like for fire trucks, changes pretty quick.
okay, I was just,
Yes, sir. I'm trying to help you understand the numbers and stuff. Absolutely understand. Yeah, we currently have 18 air packs right now, which outfit all of our apparatus. And then, in reference to that one question, because it was replacing apparatus, we pulled the SCBA off and put it on there. We didn't send SCBA's off to, with the truck.
with the truck, okay,
That fire department had to kind of pick
get
it
their
up.
own, okay, I understand.
But all the rest of them, had it pretty confident.
All right.
Sorry, Ms. Campbell.
That's okay. The next category is equipment other, 26,000. And two items in this category is a QuantiFit mask testing system. So those SCBAs, the masks, this is to allow us to do the testing in-house instead of having to bring in a contractor to do that. And then the next item is Opticom systems of 17,000. Now, this Opticom system, you're going to start to see this every year for the next few years until we get all of the systems that the lights upgraded to the new electronics that are being used. So we're planning to incorporate into the budget 2 every year until we get that project done. So it's going to be ongoing for several years to come. Equipment for the station of $54,500. This includes various items such as a couple pieces of workout equipment for Station 19. We're going to transfer some of the equipment that we have, but there will be a piece of equipment or two that we need to purchase. It includes new furniture for when the reception area is remodeled. We will need to get new furniture and cabinetry and so forth. We have a rollover of the accounting system. That's a timing issue. If I can get some time to upgrade the accounting system, that's going to be done. We have found that it needs to be replaced. So we do have to roll over that. With a new inspector comes a new tablet for them to work with. So that's the majority of the equipment for the station. And then we get to vehicles, which is the largest item. In here, it is time to replace several vehicles. The inspection truck, it's beyond its years. It's time to replace, I'm sorry. It is actually to get another inspection truck because we're hiring another inspector. So they have to have a vehicle to get around. We don't have another vehicle for them to utilize. In this category, there is $82,000 for the TRT truck. That's in case we're not able to get the truck into this year, then we have to encumber the funds. We have to pick it up in the next year. The fire truck that we've already prepaid, $477,000 is in this category. Prepaid. Well, until we get the truck, we don't expense it. So that item is carried until we expense the truck. And then we have the fireboat of almost $1 million that we're getting the grant for. So the district is going to be responsible for picking up approximately $250,000. So that's part of this. So we've got an expenditure of about $1 million, and we have a grant offset of $750,000. So the district will have to pay the rest of that. We have Beach 19. It's time for being at the new station. They will need a beach truck to when they're called out for such. And then the last item is swift water rescue boats and trailer, and that is so the team can respond to those incidents. They have to have their own equipment. So that makes up the capital acquisitions. Are there any questions on that item, as it is the largest? Okay. Then we'll finish this off. Beach safety. In April, the county, the TDD, asked us to submit a budget in April. So just keep in mind that's a year and 3 months before the season begins. So we do our best to look at how are we set up, how are we established, what future needs we have. And we actually see, and they also tell us, the county also tells us at this point, this is all we're going to give you. So even if we say, we know that we need to put an additional chair or two out there, we are restricted with what they tell us. We can try to negotiate with them as the year goes, but right now they've told us that they're going to supply us, the TDD is going to supply us with $915,000 in the city. We hope will still provide us with the $100,000. Otherwise, we won't be able to get that service done. So the beach safety budget, I did work with the beach safety division chief to build this. So it's not much different than what we currently have. And as far as the junior lifeguard program goes, that budget is based off of 40 participants per section, which is how we ran the program this year. We do foresee some changes to that program coming. So as the district evaluates that, we'll come before the board if there needs to be some adjustments to that budget. But it will be a self-contained. The revenues will offset any expenditures. It will be a break-even budget.
How many kids do you have this year?
Yeah, exactly.
40 per session, so a total of 80. So we ran 2 3-week sessions, 40 in each section.
Is that down from last year?
No. Well, I'm sorry. Yes, I think we ran a total of 50 in each section
I thought we had like 100 or something.
last
10.
year. No, we were up to those levels about 3 years ago. And last year when COVID hit, even before COVID, we had decided to bring the program down because what was happening is it was becoming more of a summer camp babysitting type of program instead of a lifeguard training program, which was the intent of the program. So it was modified a couple years ago and the level was brought down. But I think Chief Sasser's right. It might have been
It
that
sounds more
30
manageable
mark.
with 80 people than 105 people.
Well,
Are you saying employees?
No,
No, I'm talking about
kids, it's more
employees.
manageable and I think you
Right.
get more training.
Right, no. I was talking about employees.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff, staffing and all that because when you got, when you have 40 kids, then, they've got a supervisory limit of about 5 to 7. But I think they actually have it at 5. Either way, there's a number that we have to set, the number of instructors. And we always have to base that upon how many kids do we have, how many instructors are going to be able to dedicate to that, plus have lifeguards out working the beach. So who's going to work this program, who's going to work the beach? And, so there's a lot of moving parts that have to make it work. But as Ms. Catherine said, July and Ms. Catherine evaluated the junior program this year in preparation for next year and making some changes to it to kind of get back to the philosophy that we had of trying to train kids, all of them, but it shouldn't be that, we didn't want it to really be like a summer camp where kids are just kind of dropped off.
Right.
We really want it to be where kids that can swim, and that we can teach how to be better swimmers and be prepared and how to take the surf, that kind of thing, in preparation to potentially become future employees of our lifeguarding.
Well, that was the goal when we started, if I remember.
I remember that,
Tommy,
too.
remember that? It was the future lifeguards
Right.
and high schoolers that wanted to go into.
Or,
And they even got credit, if I'm not mistaken.
oh, they still do today.
Yeah.
So they still are one or two that get credit each year, because it's kind of that's kind of our agreement with the college, with the with the school board, to be able for the kids to be able to get credit, then we gotta be able to give some each year.
Did you say one or
And we
two?
normally do it and that has to be through a scholarship because they don't have to pay for it. So if they're getting that, then it's part of a school credit, it's a scholarship to be able to get that kind of thing.
So
So,
I went out to, Dana Point with Mr. Joe for the USLA designation when we started lifeguard. Their youth program had 1,100 kids.
huge.
But you said 80, give or take, and only one or two gets credit out of it?
Yeah, in each program, or is it just one?
No, this year, so to qualify to receive academic credit through the Okaloosa County school system, you have to do the entire summer, so you have to do both sessions. Also, you can't pay for the program, so the program has to give a scholarship. So the scholarship is got to be built into the cost. So we're very limited at how many scholarships we can give each year. This year, we did give 2 scholarships. We had a donation to provide a 3rd scholarship, but we didn't have an applicant for a 3rd scholarship. And it is something that they're informed of, but it's got to be the right person. It's got to be the right fit for that. So we're actually going to have a scholarship rolling over for the upcoming year, hopefully, that will draw more.
But I kind of bring it up so that the board, is going into this next year, we're reevaluating the program. It's going to be more competitive. So we might keep our numbers at that 40, or we could be able to go up to 50 or 60 probably. And I kind of felt like we probably could have hit those numbers this year, but we thought 40 was realistic, was good, a manageable number for us. We'll probably be at that 40. It maybe might even come down a little bit as we make this transition over to more of a competitive environment, so that we have strong kids, strong swimmers, kids that we feel are going to be able to kind of help us in the future. They can go off to college, but them coming back at the summer and working for us on the beach is what we're looking for. Or as they're going through high school, they're working for us, for their junior and senior year, and then they go off to college and come back and work, and then they go off into the profession, whatever it happens to be. But we're setting them, we want to be able to have those kids prepared, and that's what we're kind of looking for, and we want the stronger swimmer to be able to kind of compete. And we're looking to train them. So while they're going through this program, we want to teach them the techniques and of those things that will make them stronger swimmers, better lifeguards.
Have we got any firefighters from that by any chance that went through our program, that summer program? Anybody know?
I don't know of any.
'Cause we've had it going for quite a while.
Well, no, we've had some people, oh, for sure, we've had them come back and work as lifeguards. But whether they come back and became firefighters, I don't know that. But I can tell you, running through the program, we have had kids that have gone through our program that end up being working for lifeguards for us. So we have had that, but we'd like to increase that number. And changing the program a little bit because we kind of feel like the program's kind of lost its way a little bit. We want to bring it back to where we think it should be.
I like where you're going with that. I like the idea of making it a little more competitive because
Yes.
when you get young kids to get into competition such as baseball or football or whatever, they get into it.
That's right.
It's not just mom's dropping me off, and we probably get some better people out there. So I like going that route, I do.
Yeah.
How many employees did you say we have
On
for
the
the
beach safety
lifeguard
program,
district? Employees.
60.
How many lifeguard employees? Part-time employees, approximately 70.
And then full-time?
One.
That's what I thought.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so finishing up the budget, we have total annual expenditures of $10,756,000. So from the revenue that we have from ad valorem taxes, other revenue, grant revenue, we're short almost $3 million to cover our expenditures. So where does that come from? The state of Florida reimburses us for part of the pension contribution we have to make, $258,000. The TDD, their agreement at this point is going to give us 900. Well, it's proposed; it's not approved yet. 915,000. The city 100,000. So then the highlighted areas, I had to make adjustments because we had to look at our fund balances to see where our money's coming from to pay for all of the capital things that we've done. So we're looking to take from the restricted fund. This is the impact fund. We're looking to use all of that money because it qualifies for expansion for Station 19. So 215,000 additional used for that. The unassigned fund, we will need to use 1,018,000 of that. And I'm sorry, that's the assigned fund, which is the asset fund. My apologies. And then from unassigned funds, we're looking to use 431,000. So the next page that you have is more of a breakdown of the use of the funds. So you can see what's the beginning fund balances, where are we using, is there an additional income that's coming in that's going into these funds, and where we're using it. So we'll go through, you have your beginning balances, total fund balances of $5,594,000. And then you can see where those funds are. You have 133 of impact funds, assigned funds, which is the asset funds, 4,600,000, and so forth going across. You'll see the revenue that we have coming into these funds. So we're projecting to bring in $60,000 of impact funds in the upcoming year. We will be transferring from ad valorem taxes $619,000 to the asset fund. We normally do that every year. That's our, the amount varies, but we transfer money to the asset fund. We're looking to bring in those 3 grants that will stay in unassigned. There's 3 grants that we're hoping to receive, all of those. And then you have, how are we going to utilize, how are we going to pay for these capital assets? We've already brought in that loans for Synovus. At our next regular board meeting, I'm going to be presenting to the board to kind of move funds around, because when we purchased the land in December, we said, okay, we're going to use this much of unassigned funds, this much of assets funds, this much of impact funds. But when we structured the loan with Synovus Bank, they're basically, that loan of 1.5 million is going to pay for that land. That's how it's structured. So that money is already used, which basically means that the Station 19 land, we're using Synovus Bank loan and impact fees only. We're no longer borrowing from the asset fund. We're no longer using unassigned funds. So that frees up the funds to be used for the capital expenditures that we have to come. So you'll see, if you look through here, the land of $65,000 for Station 10 will come out of asset fund. The building, these are all the building improvements that we have. So it's building of the apparatus bay and all the improvements to the building. We'll use all we can of impact funds, and then the rest will come out of asset funds. Firefighter equipment, asset funds. Other equipment, station equipment, asset funds. Then you get to the vehicles. Some of the vehicles, you'll see 1.3 million over in unassigned funds. 750 of its grant, almost 200,000 of its grant. Then we have that $477,000 truck that we just purchased. That money needs to come from somewhere. We're getting to the point in the asset fund where we need to slow down use of the asset fund, because we're not going to have funds available to purchase our ladder truck that we're going to need in the year after. So with that, we're going to have to start using some of the unassigned funds, which is okay because we have funds available. And the district has stated in the past, we name our money, we put our money, and there's always a little bit extra, which is unassigned funds. Well, starting the year, it's projected to be 827,000 of unassigned funds. That's my projection for that. So if we use some of the funds, bring it down to a minimum, I'd like to keep in there 250,000. That gives the district flexibility if some sort of an emergency comes up and you need to access funds. You can't deplete unassigned funds. I mean, that's all you have. So we are proposing to use what we can out of there. It balances our budget. It's not a true balanced budget. We're not using incoming revenue to offset every expense we have. We do need to use reserves, but these are one-time capital expense reserves we're talking about. We are not proposing to use any reserves for ongoing operations, not for the addition of employees, not for electricity, not for insurance. All of that is maintained in our budget. This solely is driven by very large capital expenditures because of Station 19, because of the truck that's needed. So, any questions on where the district's funds are, how they're being utilized, anything else on this budget that I can answer or prepare or adjust for our next budget workshop?
No, I want to say thank you.
Yeah, done a great job.
Great job.
I like the breakdown. Just went over.
I do too.
Good.
Now, with these grants, we don't know for sure, but we've got the inkling that they're coming, right?
Correct. And you know, the SCBA grant we've applied for in the past, and it has been declined. We hope to apply for it again. Take a look at what we need to modify on that grant application and go for it again. That is an annual grant that we can apply for every year for various firefighter needs. But that particular SCBA, we don't get a grant. We're going to have to find funds to replace that. Okay. Now, the other grant, 750, is the grant for the marine vessel. Well, if we don't get that grant, you don't make that purchase.
Yeah, you don't make the purchase.
Unless you find money from another source.
No, I don't think we'll move forward unless we get the grant, so,
Not
in my opinion. So,
happening.
so I think we're safe there.
And the asset fund is positioned at the end of this year. The asset fund will have extra money in it to help replace the ladder truck.
Right.
Because we're going to be short approximately $750,000 to pay for a ladder truck. This, the way we're using our fund, we're leaving money in there to help bridge that. So we might be looking for $300,000 the year we need to purchase that truck.
And I think we'll be getting more impact fees too. There's some buildings that, kitchen here, wind up that's gonna be built.
But I think that's going to fix them, slow down a little bit too.
Well, any impact fee that comes in has to be designated to
Right.
growth in the area. So
Right.
we would apply all of that to Station 19,
Right.
and then we would
continue to put it
reduce
towards
the
funds.
use
Right.
Yeah, we would
Easier
reduce the
for
use.
payment.
Yeah, good idea. But I think that's gonna slow down here, sure. Gonna slow down.
I think so. We're kind of projecting it a little bit. If you notice in the budget, we're bringing the impact fees down because we're anticipating.
But I think there's some that's already, been approved.
Well in the process.
Yeah, that's within the process, that's already, you know, how it takes 2 or 3 years for the process, and these are almost ready to start.
Well, we like being under
Yeah,
when it
me
comes to
too.
how much we're gonna bring in, because then we're receiving, it's kind of like a gift. We're getting something like Christmas. And then it's the same thing that, you know, we make estimates, but understand Catherine and I are very conservative people. So when it comes to looking at it, we're gonna be conservative. So if we're not gonna go, insurance might only go up 3% this year, and then next thing you know, it goes up 5. We're gonna just go, we think it's gonna go up 10, and it might come in 5. And then we go, hey, great, there's a windfall there. But that windfall then turns around at the end of the year, when we look at the commission and go, you've got this money here, would you like to pay down
Sure.
the retirement? You'd like to pay off the debt? Where would you like to place this? But it gives us that ability to make sure that we're covered in case it does go up that 10%. We're not gonna be short, and I'm not gonna have to go look for it somewhere. We can make our payment.
I don't like living paycheck to paycheck,
Not gonna happen. We hope not to.
and we can't live in that world here.
But we're very conservative when it comes to that. I think the board's seen that over many budgets that we presented, that we're conservative when it comes to those. So we're gonna protect the district the best we can.
Catherine, thank you, did a good job.
She did. She did.
Both of y'all,
Every
both of
year.
y'all. And I know y'all were reading yesterday, and y'all do a good job, so we appreciate it. Thanks, DC, for your work today.
Give that to Rick.
No, this is just a workshop.
It's just a workshop.
Right, we just want to make sure the board had the opportunity to run through the budget, one good time, see everything's kind of happening, because again, there's a lot of moving parts. Kevin, first talking about that asset fund, there's a lot that's moving in and out of that asset fund, a lot of moving parts, which is, when her and I discussed it, she came up with this to be able to kind of show the board, so that you kind of see some of those moving parts that are happening in and out of that fund. Where we're bringing in grant money, but everything goes through that asset fund that comes back out to pay for it. But you gotta know where it's originally come from and then where it ends up going. So,
Refresh my memory on replacement of ladder 10. Is it 15? 10 or 15 we're replacing them?
yeah, we're trying to schedule out, replacement of our apparatus so that they're hitting, there's a separation between them so they don't hit back to back. So,
Great.
I'm stretching ladder 10 a little bit in order to ensure that we get a good separation. So it's 3 years or 4 years based upon the number of apparatus that we have. So what we don't like to do, which really don't put a hurt on us, is that replace, and I'm working on some other scheduling stuff, because right now we're sitting with 2 ladders going to hit back to back. And I say back to back, it's one's going to be replaced, and then 3 to 4 years later, the other one gets replaced. So I'm going to do, I'm looking to do some creative stuff for the second one. And right now, there's nothing to worry about because we're talking about 5 years one. But we have pushed ladder 10 because it was so close to the engine. So I kind of said, let's sit on it, it's a reserve apparatus, sit a couple, we'll get through. Not having any major problems right now. We had major problems when we first bought it. But now it's just, we just know it's a little bit of a lemon, but it does what we need to do, especially when you're in reserve. So I'm pushing it all, we'll probably end up at 17 years with the truck. We only try to roll it at 15. So we'll probably end up at about 17, because what I'm trying to do is create that gap in between the apparatus so I don't hit with an engine, and then the following year I'm having to buy ladder 10, a new ladder 10.
But I just wanted to make sure the public understands that we're just not buying engines left and right.
No, it's real.
It is amortized, and it's got some years on it.
Absolutely.
Because when you say replacing a truck and you're saying station 9, station 10, the public really don't know. They're hearing trucks getting replaced, trucks getting replaced.
Well, they're also
new
looking at how
trucks.
well we keep them up. They look like they're new,
Yeah,
you know, and when they realize they're 14 years old and they look that good,
Wow.
give us some credit because the guys keep them up.
yeah, and these are rolling every day.
Exactly.
And they get us see, so the fact that we do take good care of our equipment,
Exactly.
when we go to sell it to get the new one, you know,
Top
we
dollar.
get a better dollar for it, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a POV at your house that sits a couple of days and then it gets moved or whatever. These are rolling every day. It's up to speed, stops. I mean,
Right.
turns, wear and tear on tires and equipment. So we're getting the most out of
Well, we
our
are.
truck.
So with
Three
battery cell, we're
scalability.
gonna sit on it for a little bit. And it's not gonna hit what we would consider a normal rotation of 15 years. We're probably gonna sit for an additional 2 years to provide some gapping. So we're trying to adjust our schedule so that we're not getting hit back-to-back years on any apparatus, big apparatus in this.
And y'all have done a great job on the vehicles, by the way, all the vehicles. I mean, we've got some age on our regular work trucks and stuff, so.
They're well maintained. We got a battalion that works on that stays on it. I mean, stays on our maintenance. So it kind of keeps our apparatus up to mode.
Do we have someone that's gonna replacing him that is being trained like he is?
Yes,
We do, okay, good,
absolutely.
good, good.
I think Jeff is, isn't he?
Huh?
Jeff is the.
It's gonna be
Jimmy.
That's right.
Because Jimmy's tough, man, he's good.
And we like to live in the district part. And that's why I think it naturally falls to Jeff, because he lives in the district, because when things come
Right
up,
across
he
the street.
can drive over, which is a lot of what Taylor does. Taylor drives down, just like Tom with Anderson can drive over. So having that availability of somebody to be able to kind of come over, take a look at something with us, and the mechanical knowledge thing too that comes along with it. So there's a lot that goes into that selection process, who's going to do what.
All right, well, good job.
For sure.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a quick question before we close, and it's just something for the future to look at, but since DC is sitting here, does the district have the ability, just like a city or municipality, to subcontract different things out? Does a district, are they able to subcontract out different positions or maintenance or boat captain? Do we have the ability to do that?
The district itself or services for the district?
Yes.
Yeah, it's under 10,000. I mean,
Well, you're talking about a
Well,
position,
Yes,
so that would be probably.
yeah, a position.
Right.
Do we have the ability, instead of having to use an in-house employee, or do we have the ability to outsource just like we do you, for example?
if it's for.
And where I'm going with this is, our question that what Tommy brought up, about, and I'm just thinking for the future, maybe hiring a captain to run the boat. Do we have the ability to do that?
For specific services.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, for specialized services.
Yes, sir.
You could, I guess, contract, but if we're talking about, for example, a captain for one of the boats for out in Crab Island, I don't know the answer to that because the liability aspect of it. I mean, like any question, yeah, ultimately, could you do it? Yes, but there's going to be some limitations.
Could you check into that for us?
Yes.
Okay, please.
If there's specific, I mean, I can look into the captain, but if there is other specific positions that you want me to look into, again, one of the first things I don't want to think about is, all right, what's the liability to the district? So if you can be,
Right, okay.
okay, specific,
Right.
positions, then I will get that answer for you. Thank you.
I think right now, just the boat captain.
Yeah, no, and it's just, that was just brought,
And as soon as the boat, are you talking about? boat
I'll
captain?
help clarify.
Okay.
I'll
Okay. Yep, I'll get you the answer, but thank you.
All right, so they're talking about the budget workshop now? All right, then open the floor up for public comments. Seeing none, the floor is closed for public comment. Next meeting is a special meeting, August 4th, 2021 at 9 a.m. unless canceled otherwise. And then our regular scheduled meeting will be August 10th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. And if there's nothing else to come in front of this board at this time, this meeting is adjourned.
And his